At the end of 2009, the Islamic movement Hamas celebrated its 22nd anniversary with a rally in Gaza City. Thousands of supporters attended. More than 2 years after seizing control of the Gaza Strip, Hamas maintains widespread appeal there. Its popularity continues despite, or perhaps because of, Israel's devastating war on Gaza and the continued hardship experienced by the people of Gaza. Yet Hamas remains internationally isolated. It is considered a terrorist group by Israel, the US, and the European Union. Israel continues to enforce its border blockade on the Gaza Strip, and for its part, Egypt has begun building a controversial wall along its border with Gaza. And within Gaza itself, not everyone supports Hamas.
I was employed until 2005 by the previous government. Our legitimate government was led by Yasser Arafat, Mahmoud Abbas, and Fatah, who are our true representatives. To me, they represent us, not the others.
Yousif and his family may support the rival faction to Hamas, but they were not spared from Israel's onslaught on Gaza.
First tank shells were fired at the house. This was then followed by phosphorus.
We just wanted to escape the neighborhood. The Israelis were bombing everywhere, and we were walking over dead bodies as we fled. After 20 days, we were told that the Israelis had withdrawn from our homes. We came back to find all the houses in ruins. We could not salvage anything.
For the ATTAR family, the war didn't end with Israel's ceasefire after 22 days of bombardment.
Come over here, Ahmad. After we returned to our neighborhood, when the war ended, Ahmad found something. Look at his hand. When we were cleaning up the damage, he touched something. It exploded in his hand. This is the result of occupation.
12 months after the war, mine and ordnance experts report that up to 3,000 unexploded bombs are still scattered all over Gaza. To date, there have been almost 20 deaths and 100 serious injuries caused by the unexploded ordnance amid the rubble. Mohammed Attar takes his younger brother Ahmed to one of the few primary healthcare clinics in northern Gaza that have remained operational since the war.
مش عارف كيف يعني الولد تغير كليا عن مكان.
My boy changed completely after the war. He does not want anyone playing or joking with him, not even his brother. When Muhammad tries to engage him, he shouts at him and tells everyone to just leave him alone. After his fingers were blown off, he never left the house. I encouraged him to get out and mingle. When he did, he kept his hand inside his pocket. He was ashamed of his injury. At school, his teacher was speaking to him, and there was an argument. He could not handle the confrontation and fainted.
Ahmad is one of thousands of Gazans who were physically maimed as a result of the war on Gaza. But there are also injuries of the kind that are not so obvious. The war has taken a heavy emotional and mental toll on the people of Gaza. Doctors such as IYAD SARRAJ say that at least half the population needs professional help to come to terms with the war.
Now, this is a burden on two fronts. One is the economic burden, but there is also the cost on social, family, and individual life of these people. Not just they need more caring and attention, they actually become a form of stress on the family. And the family feel responsible and guilty. This is something about our culture. we continuously feel responsible and guilty that we are not doing enough.
To this day, my son does not sleep well. During the summer, when I took my children to the beach, which is our only outlet, my son MOHAMMAD would say, "Mom, do you remember when we left our house and I saw a head without a body?" I didn't know how to react. I told him that all is over now, that the Israelis have left. And he told me he remembers walking and seeing a human head on the ground. I don't know how to help a 7-year-old who keeps remembering a severed head.
At schools, many teachers have reported difficulty in maintaining a normal curriculum as students remain traumatized by the death of family and friends.
When the children went back to school this year, we received a number of cases from the school saying children are terrified to enter the school and they're not behaving well in the classrooms. And our psychologist reported back saying that children remembered that day because the children were outside in the street when Israel hit its first bombing of Gaza.
What's the date? What's the date?
I face great difficulties at home. I have a son called YOUSIF'S who's constantly afraid. He's constantly saying, "Dad, come and save me. The Jews are coming to shoot me." I try to reassure him and tell him that there's nothing to be afraid of. He's afraid that his school will be hit again. The Israelis did, of course, bomb his school. So many schools were bombed.
Education has always been one of the few paths available to Palestinians in search of better lives. But school counselor TAREQ ATTATRA believes that education in Gaza is difficult under the prevailing atmosphere of siege and violence. He believes academic achievement has been compromised and the future thwarted for many young Gazans.
Most of the problems we see in the schools are due to the new economic, personal and social problems. We have noticed a radical drop in the academic performance of our students. Students are constantly stressed out and depressed. Their ability to focus on their studies is extremely weak. Students are not focused on their lessons or learning. They think about the war and how that war affected them and about the events that they experienced. If the student is not treated for his trauma, it will continue to affect him in a major way.
Prior to Israel's war on Gaza, Mohammed ATTAR had been a grade A student at school.
My ambition was to be a journalist. But after the war, my grades dropped significantly. Our schools were destroyed. Our ability to learn was crushed. Everything seemed blown away. Freedom of expression no longer existed. There's no freedom to learn and none to express an opinion. I think that my future is now lost. I fear that it is now my fate to become a laborer, an exploited worker.
It's not just the young who are affected. Palestinian men have been hit especially hard by the trauma of war and economic hardships.
I feel like a big failure. All the fathers in Gaza feel they have failed their children. Those who say otherwise are lying. We all feel that we failed our families.
You know, during the siege of Gaza, children lost the father as a provider because the father is unemployed, desperate, depressed, and sometimes violent. This has individual complication for the person, but also for the family. The wife, women being more practical and trying to find solutions to problems, started to seek work. And many women became employed when the husband is not.
Earning a living in the destroyed society of Gaza is difficult because of the economic blockade. It's a society in which 75% of the people rely on food handouts. The United Nations and other international humanitarian organizations offer basic aid in the form of money, food, tents, and blankets. But Israel's blockade of Gaza makes more substantial assistance impossible. For many families, this winter will be one of continued hardship and discontent.
As you see, we live in a home without windows or doors, an incomplete house. In Israel or anywhere else, people would find these conditions unacceptable.
Little of the extensive damage caused by Israeli bombardment has been repaired. Without reconstruction, there can be no recovery. The cost of Israel's war on Gaza continues to remain exceedingly high.